Hello everyone, this is the great Lord and Master, Osiron, the Eternal. Well, it's going to be an amazing video. Okay, this is going to be part 4 of the binary cube matrix. And again, we're dealing with the Yggdrasil structure. But you know what? I think I'm going to change the name of that. Because this really doesn't really have any real association with the Yggdrasil. You know, it really doesn't. It's just a structure that has 9 things and whatever. But to me, it looks more like an eye of a dragon. You know, you see how if you round these off, it looks like an eye of a dragon kind of. So that's what I'm going to call it, I think, from now on, is the eye of the dragon. But now, what this is this, in this configuration the way it is now, this is a numerically perfected supercube. And you're going to see something amazing with this. Because right now, with the way I have this drawn up, you could say, well, why is it drawn that way? Right? Because I've actually been experimenting with other ways to draw it. And there's one other way that I drew it where it puts the 3-6 in the center, which you would think that would actually be more perfect, but it's not. This, the way I draw it like this, using the polarity oscillations and going from top to bottom or bottom to top, whichever way you want to do it, is the proper way to do it. Meaning, there's a right way to do this, and this is the right way to do it. I'm going to show you how I discovered that truth. Okay, and remember, and what it does, and there's also one thing that I figured out that clears up a big mess that I've been having, or a problem I've been having. One is this with the structure. It starts 0, then it goes 1. And then if you use the principle of feminine to the left, masculine to the right, in the middle is a fusion, what happens with this is you go 0, then you want 1. Well, the rule of thumb is usually feminine first, so that you would think you would have to go to this side first. But if you put the number in the proper side that it belongs on, 2 is first, so it's kind of like a wrench in the works a little bit, but that's not what's going on. Using the tree of life structure, where this is feminine, this is masculine, this is a fusion of the two, what you see is this top number actually is feminine, and then it goes to the masculine. So it does follow the rule: feminine first, then masculine, and then feminine, it goes all down. And the reason why the middle is a fusion of the two is because it starts out with feminine, and then it becomes masculine with the 4, and then the lower one is feminine, and it ends with masculine with the 8. So this pillar actually is, if you look at it in a 2D pillar format, it is a fusion of the two numbers. And this side is purely feminine, and this side is purely masculine. And then when you look at this cube over here, you see how that plays out. You see this side of the cube is all feminine, and this side is all masculine. And with that polarity isolation like that, it takes on the aspect of a capacitor. If you look at the previous video, I explained how the single-digit code in the cube geometry shows the nature of electricity. Well, this is another aspect of electricity, and this is showing the structure of how a capacitor works. You got 2 plates here, one's charged negatively and the other's charged positively, and this is showing a capacitor. But so now when you have this like this and the numbers like this, and using this configuration, this is the proper way. And now we're going to see how this plays out in the cube over here. Now what this is next to this here is this in its axis formation. And how this proves this works, this is the proper configuration is, if you take each plate and you add the 4 numbers that are on the plate, it reveals these numbers. So these top 4 reveal a 1, these bottom 4 reveal the 8, this right side, all 4 reveal a 2, this left side, all 4 reveal a 7, and then the rear plate reveals a 5, and the front plate reveals a 4. And you're going to notice, obviously, that separates into the split of 9. You got the 1, 8, the 2 and 7, and then the 4 and the 5. Showing, and this only would work like this. This doesn't work with the other configuration. And you have to also realize, if you go way back to my video, the octahedron Kundalini grid, this uses this format, and if you didn't draw it this way, that wouldn't work. So what this is, the eye of the dragon in this configuration, is the numerically perfected supercube. That's what it is. So, but now there's even more to this too. Now, what happens when you do this, so now when you have this like this, what happens is this is showing the relationship of a 5 and a 6 now, because each plate has 4 numbers, and when you combine those 4 numbers, it reveals one of these digits. Okay? So now that's showing a 5-6 split, because each plate now has 5 numbers times 6, and that's showing the relationship between the true tree, which is the heart of the true tree, which is a 5, and the heart of the jewel, which is a 6. And what is 5 plus 6? 11, which reduces to a 2. So we're seeing the aspect of duality again. So now, this goes even further, and this reveals the pentagram. This is going to show how the cube and the single digit code reveal the pentagram. This is absolutely amazing what happens next. Okay, now what happens, if you take, following the rule of 2, if you take each plate, okay, on this structure here, and you go in order of the lowest to the highest first. So what that means is, you take this top plate that's a 1, and then you add its opposite, which is the 8. Okay? So you add the top plate and the bottom plate, and that reveals a 36. And then the next spot you go to is the 2, because that's the next highest number. So you add the 2, and then you add the 7. And then what happens when you add those, the total becomes 72. And then the final set is the 4 and then the 5, and when you add those up, it reveals 108, which is the holy Hindu number of 108. So, but now what you have is three sets of dualities that reveals 36, 72, and 108, and that coincidentally enough happens to be the angular dimensions of the pentagram. You have 108, you have 72 angle, and then you have 36, and that gives you the pentagram. In this structure here, you may know what this is. This is my the Osiron unicursal double pentagram. Okay, and this is actually the 3rd time I'm showing this structure. And the way I have it drawn right now is actually upside down. It's completely upside down, okay? But what happened was, the first time I presented this structure, I showed it just like this. And then the second time, I reversed the numbers because I wanted it to start from the bottom, because the feminine should be below, the masculine should be above, okay? But I reversed that, and but now it's drawn right again, it's just upside down. So you got to turn this whole thing upside down, and that's how it would be. But now what's happening is this dual pentagram structure has the properties of a cube in its corner configuration. You have 4 corners on the top, 4 corners on the bottom, and then you have the center point. And you're seeing this here. You have 4 corners up top, 4 on the bottom, and then you have the joined center point in the middle, and that is the same as a cube, 9. Okay. And there's a lot more amazing stuff to go with this too in the number sequence, because if you remember, it shows a counter-rotating vortex, 2 of them. The top one is a clockwise rotation. The lower one, I forgot to draw the arrow, but the lower one is a counterclockwise rotation. And this isn't just a cube too. This is also a flattened out icosahedron, which is a 20-sided dice. And what does 20 reduce to? 2. Okay, so now, because what you do, if you take this apart and you turn them sideways and you bend these like corner tabs down and interlock them together, and if you draw like from each of these pentagram corners, if you draw lines into the middle and you were to raise them into little triangles, this would be an icosahedron. So this is a flattened out icosahedron, and it's also a flattened out modified cube if you flatten it out and then you equalize the geometry. But the cube also is revealing the pentagram. Now something even more amazing is there's actually 2 numbers in the sequence when you build this. So the 36, 72, and the 108 is only the dual representations. But it really goes like this. The first plane is 10, and the second plane is 36. And when you keep adding, the third plane is 56, which is the heart of the true tree and the jewel. It's also the pillar of Yakin when you either add or times them together. I forget which one offhand, but and then the next one is 72. The third one is 94, and if you remember on the Osiron Tarot spiral, which is a representation of the cube, the lower part of the axis of the solstice axis is a 9, and the upper is a 4. And then the final one is 108, which is that magical Hindu number of 108. So we're seeing this, and this is 6. It reveals a pentagram again. Absolutely stunning and amazing. But now when we get back to this, we're seeing some amazing aspects of correlation. What these little angular lines represent is, remember duality, what these angular lines represent is if you see this angular line, well, its matching correspondent below is this angular line. And when you add this together, it becomes a 7. The 3 and the 4 become a 7. And then the lower here, the 5 and the 6 become a 2. And in the middle, the horizontal ones, the lower one becomes a 4, and the upper one becomes a 5. And then the other angle, which is this 1 and a 2 here, the 1 and 2 become a 3, and the 7 and 8 become a 6. And those are obviously splits of 9. You got the 7, 2, 5, 4, and the 3 and the 6 in this thing. And all the lines that run through the center reduce to 9 directly. So the 4 and the 5 reduce to 9, and the 1 and the 8 reduce to 9. So this is the perfected cube here, and this is the perfected pentagrams using the single digit code. So it's absolutely perfect. And now also you're going to see something amazing with the cube. When you add the 10, 56, and 94, that reveals 160, which reduces to a 7. And remember, the cube is best represented by 7. If you watch the previous videos. And then this side here, the 36, 72, and the 108, when you add those up, they become 216. Now, there's a lot of people who love that number 216. Now, Lucius Kahn and a few other guys call that number the number of God, and they have their reasons why they do that. So now, when you add the cube reveals these numbers, but and that's the pentagram. When you add them together, that reveals 216, which is, of course, reduces to a 9. So again, amazing aspects. Now, up here, this might be a little controversial for some people, but what this is the ancient Aryan symbol, or the swastika, which in modern times has a bad connotation. I'm not going to get into politics or history here, but this is not evil. This is not, and it never has been evil, regardless of who used it. It was never evil, ever. This also shows the single-digit code. Okay, now there's a million ways you could draw this. And what I decided to do is just draw it like this. Draw it showing counter rotation. So you got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you jump to 5 and start the counter rotation. 5, 6, 7, 8, and you see that each section becomes, you got 1 and 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, and 4 and 5, and you join together to form 9. And 4 times 9 is 36, so you're seeing that in the swastika. And when you add these little dots, which some cultures, remember the swastika is a global structure. It's an ancient Aryan symbol that is found on every continent, including Antarctica. Okay, now the Nazis may have brought it to Antarctica, but it was found there too. But so now when you add these 4 little dots, it reveals 12, because you got the two broken lines in each segment plus the dot. You know, it reveals 12. 8 plus 4 is 12. And the center point, if you take those out, and you got the 8, and you can call the center point 0 in 9, same thing. So the single digit code is shown in the swastika too, and the swastika shows counter rotation, just like the pentagrams do. And incidentally enough, when you separate the pentagrams and join it in its icosahedron form, the rotation forces end up being the same axis of rotation. Now, I remember I was watching a Ken Wheeler video the other day, and he was showing a magnet on a CRT tube, and when you put it next to the TV, it shows rotation. Like if you put it one way, it shows clockwise rotation. If you put it the other way, turn it around, it shows counterclockwise rotation. So we're seeing that here. The rotations end up working like that. Let me check the time real quick. I'm trying to keep the video short. Alright, we're at 14 minutes now, so I gotta stop picking up the pace. So now I also want to get to one last thing, is this. This configuration of numbers here, I explained what this is in the other video. When you remember, the cube, this is a dual cube. This is showing 2 cubes. And the singular cube is represented by 777, and the double cube is represented by 555, and I explain why that is. So when you add the 777, that becomes 21, which reduces to a 3. When you add the 555, it becomes 15, which reduces to a 6, for a 3-6 separation. And when you multiply those numbers, it reveals, the final numbers reveal a 1 for the singular cube and an 8 for the double cube. Okay, but then, so you have these numbers, the 3, 6, and the 1 and the 8, and they're separated by polarity, feminine and masculine. But when you add those numbers together, the 3 and the 1 become a 4, and when you add this 3 to this 8, it reduces to a 2, which adds to 6, which is the counter opposite of this, the 3 and the 6, and these are both masculine. This is feminine, it's a reversal. When you add the 8 to the 3, it reduces to a 2, 11 and 2, and when you add 8 and 6, it reduces to a 5, which ends up becoming a 3, which is the reverse of the 6. So the symmetry is perfect on this. This also reveals every single number of the single digit code without repeating. So you got 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is the top of the cube, or would be the bottom if you had it. All these things are upside down. You should start from the bottom and go to the top. So you got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you got 5, 6, 7, and 8 in these numbers that are revealed here. And they're separated by polarity. It shows perfect symmetry. It's absolutely beautiful and amazing. All of this is beautiful and amazing. And there's so much going. There's even a lot more going on with this too. It's just ridiculous how much is actually here that I'm not getting to. This is a lot, but this is showing the numerically perfected supercube, and I'm calling this structure from now on the Eye of the Dragon. And it shows how this is a perfected cube, and it reveals the pentagram in its sequence of numbers. And this could only happen if you drew it like this. So showing the cube in this structure it has to be drawn like this, because if you don't draw it like this, it fucks everything up. And this is also revealing a 2-7 split in its presentation too, because in the middle structure here you have 7, you got the 3 outer 6 circles, and the center is a 7 in its 2D form, remember. And then the outer 2 is a 2, so you got a 2-7 split, or a 7-2 split, whatever you want to call it, but it's showing that too. It's just absolutely perfect and amazing. So I think I'm going to wrap this up. Oh, if you want to donate too, that'd be awesome. I need some weed. But if you do donate, I'll put my email below. I can only take PayPal or PayPal payment. I can't take credit card right now or debit. But if you don't want to, that's fine. Whatever. But thank you and namaste.